Most hunters drop anywhere from $1,500 to $3,500 on a precision rifle that shoots sub-MOA, then slap a $200 optic on top and wonder why they are dropping game at 600 yards instead of 800. Here is the truth. That rig is only as accurate as the glass between your eye and the target. But here is where it gets wild. In 2026, there are exactly 7 rifle scopes operating at a level of optical purity and mechanical perfection that most shooters will never understand exists. These are not the tactical doorbreaker rigs you have seen on YouTube. And they are absolutely not the budget stuff gathering dust on big box shelves. We are about to lock into the 7 most lethal precision hunting optics ever engineered for a sub-MOA platform. And by the end, you will know exactly which one owns your next mountain hunt. Rank 7, Vortex Razor HD, LHT 4.5-22x50 FFP. Listen, most hunters think that lightweight means sacrifice. They assume you either carry a feather or you carry confidence, not both. The Vortex Razor HD LHT just proved that logic dead wrong. This is a scope that weighs 21.7 ounces, meaning you could literally carry 3 of them on a day pack up 14,000 feet and still have energy left to execute a clean shot at whatever moves in front of your glass. That is the entire ballgame right there. Under the hood, this thing uses an APO optical formula, apochromatic for the nerds, that corrects chromatic aberration across the entire visible spectrum. What does that actually mean? When you are glassing a dark mule deer against snow-bright granite at sunset, you should not see purple fringing around the edges. You should see a clean, crisp edge. The HD lens elements, combined with the proprietary XR Plus multi-coated system, push light transmission to an almost absurd level. We are talking about 88–90% transmission in genuinely difficult light. Armor-Tech coating on the exterior glass means scratches roll off like water on a duck. You could drag this thing through a creek bed and it laughs. The Rev Stop Zero system is where the engineering flex shows up. You dial elevation on the fly, do your wind compensation on the fly, and when you are done with your shots, you rotate back and the mechanical zero stop catches with absolute authority. No guessing, no creep, no second guessing yourself in the dark. The elevation turret runs open with a solid detent lock to prevent accidental turn during movement through brush. 75 MOA of total elevation adjustment. That is enough for everything short of extreme long range. Windage stays capped, which tells me Vortex understands how hunters actually operate. Most of you prefer to dial the elevation and read the reticle for wind holds. Smart design choice. The XLR2 reticle, available in both MOA and Murad, sits at first focal plane, meaning the Christmas tree pattern maintains perfect scaling across the entire zoom range from 4.5 power to 22 power. At 6 power, 2 mil holds wind exactly the same as 18 power. That consistency is worth thousands of dollars in real-world accuracy when crosswinds are pushing your cold bore zero all over the map. Vortex backs this entire package with their VIP unlimited lifetime warranty. No receipt required. That is confidence in their product. Rank 6. Trijicon Tenmile HX 3-18x44 FFP. Trijicon built their empire on a simple principle. If it fails in combat, it has no business existing. That ruthless philosophy runs through every micron of the Tenmile HX. This is a scope engineered by Light Optical Works in Japan, the same outfit that has been precision grinding glass for 3 decades, and it shows in the mechanical tolerances. Everything moves with that satisfying mechanical precision that tells you the engineers were not playing games with dwell time or acceptable variance. The 3-18 power zoom delivers exceptional versatility. At 3 power, you are pulling in a field of view of 35.3 feet at 100 yards, meaning you can thread a shot through thick timber without losing sight. Picture: at 18 power, you are performing ballistic math on targets pushing 700 yards without breaking a sweat. The optical architecture here is built around broad-spectrum anti-reflective coatings that maximize light transmission while minimizing glint. The 44mm objective lens sits low, intentionally low, which is exactly what precision hunters actually need. Lower mounting axis means cleaner cheek weld on the rifle, less height over bore, and less chance of snagging on brush during movement. The reticle image itself is crisp without distortion, no fisheye effect creeping in at maximum magnification. Build quality feels like holding a piece of industrial equipment, because that is exactly what it is. Here is the deal breaker though. You only get 60 MOA of elevation adjustment. That sounds like plenty, until you start building an extreme long-range rig. If you are planning to stretch a point and click to 800 yards or beyond with anything heavier than a 28 Nosler, you might find yourself wishing you had the 100 MOA or higher that Zeiss and some other heavy hitters provide. It is a solid limitation, not a failure, but it matters if your hunting dreams run deep into 700+ yard territory. The MOA Precision Tree Reticle at first focal plane is a game changer for practical hunting. The central axis stays uncluttered. No unnecessary hash marks clogging your sight picture, while the holdover points are clearly labeled, eliminating the need to count individual lines under pressure. Trijicon engineered the illumination system with a CR2032 battery that runs for 39 hours in red mode, or a ridiculous 94 hours in green. The satin black finish on the aluminum tube resists corrosion like few others, and the overall length of 15.02 inches means this scope integrates cleanly on most modern hunting platforms. This is disciplined engineering applied to a hunting-specific problem. Rank 5. Maven RS 1.2, 2.5-15x44 FFP. Maven walked into the optics game and essentially said, "Why should you pay 30% markup to some middleman retailer? They sell direct." That business model alone has disrupted the entire industry. The RS 1.2 is Maven's second-generation precision hunting scope, and it represents a genuine leap from the original RS.1. The optics are Japanese-sourced ED glass, extra low dispersion, which means the light path stays true across the entire magnification range without that purple and green fringing that plagues budget glass. Transmission hits 89%, so you are not leaving light on the table when shooting into low-angle dawn or dusk. The result is a scope that delivers optical clarity that punches way above its price point. The mechanical platform sits inside a traditional 30mm tube, delivering 100 MOA of elevation adjustment, plenty for most hunting applications, including long-range work out to 800 yards with standard Magnum rounds. The elevation turret is open design with a legitimate zero-stop mechanism that requires no tools, meaning you can lock your cold bore zero, dial your distance, and rotate back with absolute certainty you have landed on true zero again. Each click is crisp, both tactily and audibly. The windage turret stays capped. Maven listened to what hunters actually complain about in the field. You are not knocking this off zero when you shoulder carry through sagebrush or when the strap gets cinched tight in the truck bed. Now for the gotcha. The Sure-Mill reticle, while clean and functional, sits at a slightly different resolution than some competitors. You get clear numbered references on the grid, which eliminates counting during high-stress situations, but the overall aesthetic feels less aggressive than a true mill-based Christmas tree. If you are a hardcore ballistic nerd who lives and breathes holdover math, you might feel like the reticle is oversimplified. The red dot illumination in the center is subtle, not blazing like a red dot sight in daylight, but it becomes your best friend during that golden 20 minutes of legal shooting at dusk. The RS 1.2 weighs 26.4 ounces and measures 14.05 inches, making it genuinely portable for mountain hunts, while remaining robust enough to handle the recoil signature of a 7 mag or 300 Win mag without flinching. The magnification range of 2.5 to 15 power gives you a 90-degree field of view at minimum magnification, perfect for snapshots through timber, while still delivering enough power to execute the math on distant targets. This is the crossover scope that refuses to compromise. But here is the thing. This is solid, but wait until you see what sits at number 1. The engineering gets genuinely unhinged. Rank 4. Swarovski Z8i, 2.3-18 by 56p. While North America has collectively marched toward first focal plane designs with tactical overlays, European hunting tradition took a completely different path. Swarovski looked at the traditional driven hunt, where you are moving through terrain fast, acquiring targets at variable ranges, and need optical dominance in failing light, and built the Z8i around those real-world parameters. This scope represents the absolute zenith of European optical philosophy. The 56mm objective lens, combined with proprietary lens coatings and a light management architecture, achieves 93% total light transmission. That number is not just engineering flex. That is the difference between seeing a stag clearly at 15 minutes past legal shooting time and packing it in for the day because the timber went black. The optical architecture here achieves something that most scopes fumble badly. It maintains razor-sharp edge resolution across an 8-power magnification range, from 2.3 power all the way to 18 power, without introducing fisheye distortion or loss of peripheral clarity. The reticle itself maintains consistent proportions because the Z8i uses second focal plane design. Before you groan, hear me out. At 3 power, the thick aiming point is easy to acquire in timber. At 18 power, that same reticle proportion means you are not staring through a microscopic dot surrounded by empty glass. The illumination system runs off a tilt sensor, Swarovski technology, which automatically powers down when the rifle points skyward and snaps back on the instant you shoulder it. That is not convenience. That is engineering that understands the field. The deal breaker here is real, though. Second focal plane is a dinosaur to anyone trained exclusively on modern tactical FFP platforms. If you have spent the last 5 years dialing ballistics on first focal plane systems, where holdovers remain constant across magnification, the Z8i will require you to recalibrate your entire mental model. The modular BTF turret system, while genuinely brilliant, allowing you to pre-program 3 specific distances and rotate between them, also feels like a workaround to a problem that FFP solves more elegantly. You are also paying a premium price for optics that frankly do not integrate cleanly into the American long-range hunting framework that has evolved over the last decade. Mechanically, the 30mm tube delivers 64.8 MOA of elevation, solid but not excessive, with a windage cap that protects against accidental deflection. The scope weighs only 25.6 ounces, despite that monster 56mm lens, which tells you Swarovski engineered this thing with obsessive precision. It operates flawlessly from -4 Fahrenheit to 131 Fahrenheit and can be submerged to 13 feet. For the hunter who prioritizes absolute optical dominance in extreme low light and who embraces the European hunting tradition of rapid target acquisition over complex ballistic math, this scope has no equal on the planet. But if you are an American precision hunter, grafting this into a modern Sub-MOA platform, you might be fighting the system instead of using it. Rank 3. Nightforce NX8, 2.5-20 by 50 f1. Stepping up the game here. Nightforce built their entire reputation on a single principle that has never wavered. If it breaks in the field, you die. That is not hyperbole. This company engineered optics for military applications where mechanical failure is not an inconvenience, it is a casualty. The NX8 takes that ruthless durability philosophy and compresses it into a hunting package that should not exist by the laws of physics. 12 inches long, 30mm tube, 50mm objective, 8 power magnification range. Traditional optics engineering would tell you that packing an 8-power zoom into that compact footprint is impossible without sacrificing optical quality. Nightforce did it anyway by using ED glass elements positioned at angles that bend light like a Swiss watchmaker bends time. The objective lens sits recessed 20 millimeters deep into the aluminum tube, creating a physical shield against direct impacts and stray light. That is not stylistic. That is intentional mechanical design. The first focal plane reticle options, MOA, Mil-C, Mil-XT, Tremor 3, all sit at the front focal plane, meaning your holdovers remain constant across the entire magnification range. The Mil-C reticle gives you a sharp center dot with 0.2 mrad increments for wind holds, while the MOA caters to shooters who still think in minutes of angle. Dig-Ilum illumination delivers a red or green dot that stays visible in daylight without washing out, and importantly, without requiring a 16-hour battery commitment. Here is the mechanical truth that separates Nightforce from the pretenders. The zero-stop mechanism is not just a marketing term. After you establish cold bore zero, the elevation turret engages a clutch assembly that allows you to spin through your distance holds and then rotate back to that original 0 point purely by feel. No visual confirmation needed, no accidental overshoot, no guessing. The windage turret stays capped intentionally because Nightforce understands that wind correction happens in the reticle, not at the turret, when you are actually hunting. The deal breaker that some shooters hit is the eye box tightens noticeably at maximum magnification. If your cheek weld is sloppy or inconsistent, you will lose image at 20 power. Professional shooters adjust their fundamentals. Amateurs blame the scope. The real flex here is the durability testing. This scope absorbed 1,500 Gs of impact force through multiple shock cycles, equivalent to dropping it repeatedly from heights that would destroy lesser optics, and tracked true afterward. Nightforce designed every mechanical surface to distribute recoil energy across multiple axes, instead of concentrating stress at single points. That philosophy costs weight and manufacturing precision, but the result is a scope that can absorb the full fury of a Magnum rifle without flinching. At 28.3 ounces, it is not the lightest on this list, but every extra gram is ballistic insurance. For the hunter who ventures into terrain where equipment failure means disaster, NX8 is the answer that never wavers. Rank 2, Leupold, Mark V HD, 3.6-18 by 44 M5C3. Entering the elite tier now. Leupold Mark V HD has become the standard issue optic for precision hunters, competitive shooters, and professional guides who refuse to compromise on anything. This is not a trend. This is institutional recognition. The 3.6 to 18 power magnification delivers a 5-to-1 ratio, giving you the widest possible field of view at minimum power for fast target acquisition in timber, while still pushing enough magnification to execute ballistic calculations at extended range. The 44mm objective balances light gathering power with a lower mounting profile, and that lower mounting axis matters more than most hunters realize. Leupold engineered the Mark V HD around a philosophy they call light management instead of just raw light transmission. That distinction is critical. Yes, they achieve 90+% transmission, but the optical formula specifically controls glare under harsh midday sun, the exact condition where most optics wash out and your target becomes invisible inside a wall of brightness. The result is resolution that stays crisp even when the sun is climbing straight overhead. The 35mm main tube is an engineering statement. Larger diameter means more internal space for the erector assembly, which translates directly into 100 MOA of total elevation adjustment, nearly double what compact scopes deliver. That elevation budget matters when you are hunting anything from mule deer at moderate range to long-range applications pushing past 800 yards. The zero-lock mechanism requires deliberate button manipulation to exit zero, eliminating the accidental elevation drift that haunts open turret designs when you are traversing rough terrain. The click value of 0.1 mil is crisp, both in feel and sound. The visual and tactile ring counter tells you exactly how many revolutions you have dialed, so you never lose track during extended shooting sequences. Here is the mechanical frustration, though. That 35mm tube adds genuine weight and bulk compared to traditional 30mm platforms. The scope runs 26 ounces, which is respectable, but heavier than the Vortex or Maven. If you are a weight-obsessed backcountry hunter, counting every ounce above base camp, this is the compromise that tests your conviction. The reticle options span from minimalist PR 1mil and PR 2mil designs to more aggressive Tremor 3 and H59 patterns at first focal plane. The PR series represents modern restraint, just enough reference points to execute ballistic correction without visual clutter. High-end models integrate motion sensor technology, which automatically powers down the illumination after 5 minutes of inactivity and snaps it back alive the instant the rifle moves. That is not gimmickry. That is a 35-hour battery lifespan instead of 6 hours. Leupold backs this with a no-questions lifetime warranty. The build quality is industrial, the tracking is flawless, and the ergonomics fit modern hunting platforms like they were engineered together. Because honestly, they were. This scope represents the perfect equilibrium between tactical precision and hunting practicality. Rank 1. Zeiss LRP S3 4-25x50, the crown jewel. Everything changes here. The Zeiss LRP S3 is not a hunting scope that happens to work at extreme range. This is an extreme long-range instrument that happens to work for hunting. The distinction matters. When you are attempting to ethically execute a kill shot beyond 700 yards, into territory where wind drift becomes your primary enemy and ballistic trajectory becomes non-negotiable, this scope owns the conversation. The 4-25 power magnification alone tells you Zeiss rejected the comfortable limitations that define most hunting optics. You can acquire targets fast at low power, then push magnification hard enough to read wind flags and execute ballistic math that would make a computer jealous. The optical foundation here runs on ED glass combined with Zeiss's proprietary T-Star multi-layer coating system, tuned individually to each lens element, delivering 90% total light transmission. Lotus Tech coating on the external surfaces pushes water, mud, and fingerprints off like they are offended by the glass. The 50mm objective sits proud in its housing, gathering light like a vacuum cleaner sucks debris. The result is image clarity that stays surgical even when you are glassing into backlit terrain where lesser optics simply give up. The ED formula eliminates chromatic aberration across the visible spectrum. No color fringing, just pure optical fidelity. Compare that directly to the Leupold Mark V HD, which delivers excellent optical quality, but operates within more conservative design parameters. Zeiss rejected conservatism entirely. Now here is where the Zeiss transcends everything else on this list. The elevation budget. 160 MOA. That is 46.5 Murad. To put that in perspective, that elevation travel is enough to compensate for a point-blank shot at 100 yards all the way out to 1,500 yards with a modern Magnum platform without relying on a canted base or extreme rail angles. The Leupold Mark V HD maxes out at 100 MOA. The Nightforce NX8 delivers 110 MOA. The Zeiss does not just exceed them, it doubles down. That is the difference between theoretical capability and actual real-world execution when you are pursuing animals across impossible terrain at distances most hunters consider fantasy. The mechanical backbone is 34mm T6 aluminum with walls 3mm thick. This is not light scaffolding. This is a vault. The multi-turn elevation turret features a genuine ballistic stop mechanism that prevents overshoot, while the windage turret remains capped with a solid lock. The scope absorbed 1,500 Gs of repeated impact testing without losing zero. That is impact energy equivalent to dropping from a moving vehicle at full speed. The deal breaker is weight, 36.7 ounces. You are carrying nearly 2.5 pounds of glass and aluminum. That is not a hunting scope you pack 5 miles up a mountain. That is a purpose-built long-range rig that lives on a precision rifle that does not move until the shooting is finished. But here is the truth that separates kings from pretenders. When you are positioned at a high camp, glassing a canyon that stretches 700 yards across, and you spot a legal animal at a distance that makes every other scope on this list require compromise or guesswork, the Zeiss Lerp S3 does not blink. It gives you the elevation. It gives you the magnification. It gives you the optical clarity to confirm wind direction by reading grass movement. It delivers what every other scope merely promises. The Vortex LHT is a triumph of engineering optimization. Incredible performance at featherweight, but it maxes out at 75 MOA. The Maven RS 1.2 is the perfect crossover tool, but 100 MOA leaves you guessing at real long range. The Zeiss LRP S3 refuses to leave anything to chance. When your hunting dreams run deep into extreme distance, and mechanical perfection is not negotiable, this scope wears the crown absolutely unchallenged. Seven rifles, 7 objectives, 7 different answers to the same fundamental question. What separates good enough from absolutely lethal? The Vortex Razor HD LHT proves that lightweight does not mean weakness. The Leupold Mark V HD and Maven RS 1.2 demonstrate that crossover capability is not a myth. You can hunt timber and punch steel at distance with identical confidence. The Trijicon Tenmile HX brings Japanese precision to an American hunting framework. The Swarovski Z8i stands as a monument to European optical dominance in failing light. The Nightforce NX8 refuses to break under any circumstance. And the Zeiss LRP S3, that scope simply operates in a different dimension when extreme range becomes your playground. But here is what matters. None of these 7 scopes will save you if you do not put in the work. Cold bore practice, wind reading, understanding your ballistics intimately, knowing your rifle's actual velocity, not the published spec. These are non-negotiable. The scope is just the tool that reveals your competence or exposes your laziness. The precision hunting landscape has fundamentally shifted. Sub-MOA rifles are now baseline expectation, not achievement. The glass you mount on top determines whether you are hunting or just hoping, whether you are executing ethical shots or playing the lottery with an animal's suffering. When you are ready to eliminate every mechanical and optical variable standing between you and absolute certainty, when you commit to precision at the level these 7 instruments demand, you are not just buying a scope, you are joining a standard that refuses compromise. Train hard, stay safe, and I will see you downrange.